Why should you invest? Well, I'm pretty sure you've heard it all over and over again. The power of compound interest. But what is it all about? Well, in this video, I want to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly of compound interest. Stay tuned. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicky Sujadi and I create relatable contents to you millennials, such as career and financial related contents. So if you like this kind of contents, do consider subscribing because that is what this channel is going to be about. Today, I want to talk to you about why we millennials should start investing. The most common and the biggest factor to why you should invest is compound interest. The power of compound interest, which is why I want to split this video into three parts: the good, the bad, and the ugly of compound interest. Let's start with the good. And to do that, let me just give you an example of what compound interest is all about. Pretty much what compound interest means is that the interest that you earn is added back to your principal such that the next period of the interest is the accumulation of your principal and your all other interests you have gathered so far. Imagine I have $100 that I put into an account that gives you 10% interest. The first year I'll get is 10% of that $100, which is $10, right? So that's just simple maths. But then the second year that I will be getting is 10% of $110 because I have now accumulated $10 on top of the principal that I have put in initially. So what that does is that the second year I'll get 121 and then so on and so forth. But you might be wondering, wait, second year I make 121, which gives me $1 more than the first year. How is that good? It's just $1. Am I just gonna make $1 more and more and more like that? Well, this is why compounding takes time. Compounding can only take its effect in a long period of time. And just to give you an illustration, I'll show you a graph right here, which is that right now, comparing just gathering 10%, which is from the previous example, is just $10 each year, you get a straight line, okay? Whereas a compound interest will give you an exponential line. And the $1 difference that we just saw is just at the beginning of the difference between the compound interest and the simple interest. And as you can see, the difference gets larger and larger through time. And when it gets into this time where it will, as you can see, it has a massive difference. That is where the power of compound interest really kicks in. So the good is we have to make sure that we fully utilize the compound interest, and that takes a bit of patience. That takes a bit of time for it to actually show its true potential. Now, the second point of the video, it's the bad of compound interest. The bad of compound interest comes to effect when inflation comes in. Now, inflation briefly is pretty much the increase of price over time at a certain percentage. And right now, the average is around 2.5%. In other words, our cash, if we just remained it as cash, like having a pile of cash sitting there, doing nothing without compounding its interest, it will lose its value 2.5% every single year. And because it works very similar to the compound interest that we just mentioned, it also loses its value exponentially. So we have to make sure that that does not work against us, and investment can actually help to mitigate that inflation effect. That is the bad. Now, what is the ugly of compound interest? Now, the ugly of compound interest is in fact the opposite of investment. What is the opposite of investment? Is to actually get in debt. To get in debt means that instead of you getting the interest, you are losing the interest over time. Now, the worst kind of debt is the credit card debt. Because firstly, the credit card company charges you a lot more money. It charges an average of 13%. And if you compare to the market return, which is just roughly around 10% over the past 40 years, you are technically will be losing more money than what you will be earning. You potentially might just meet the minimum requirement to actually keep on using the credit card. And yet the interest and the debt just keep piling and piling, just like how you see in the graph as I firstly shown you. But instead of you earning that interest, it's you losing that money. You can potentially just say, oh yeah, I'm just paying $1 difference, $1 in interest and all that. But once you just accumulate and it accumulates over time, the compound interest will take its effect against you. And that is really the ugly truth of compound interest. If you get into debt, compound interest can really be your worst nightmare. And I know that sometimes debt is also inevitable not to have. Things like buying a house, we might need mortgages, right? We don't have so much cash at hand to pay the banks, and might not even be the best way to do it as well, because we might need to use the cash for something else. Or for example, we need to have debt to actually fund our hospital bills, and it's something of an emergency, and we have to go into debt. And the reason why you should invest is because by investing you can help to cancel out or minimize this negative compound effect that is brought over by the debt. And so really the key message to this video is to actually invest, because firstly, you are missing out a huge potential on the positive compounding effect. Because this huge potential effect can also cancel out the bad, which is the inflation rate, which is also compounding against you. And sometimes it can also help to mitigate and minimize the negative compound interest that debt will potentially take you, because sometimes debt can just be inevitable. I hope that I somehow encourage you to invest in some other ways. And right now you might be wondering, what should you invest in? What? Stock market, real estate, blah, blah, blah. Well, stay tuned for the next video, because that is what I'll be touching on. Alright, thank you for watching. If you find value from this video, please do give a thumbs up. And if you like more of this valuable content, do consider subscribing and hit the notification bell for whatever notification ring you can get. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.